Okay, we're live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have two very special guests. I was just on their show. We recorded a show on August 12th that they asked me to come on and to kind of talk about my background, but also specifically about a great film, Parallax View. And so we did 2.5 hour show, talked a long time. Friday, that was Friday night, the 12th. I think we posted it on the 16th. So you can go back and listen to that. But they're very well informed, and it was really a delight for me to talk with them. And during that conversation, they brought up stuff that I didn't know, like a name of a band called Cradle of Filth, and their connection to maybe some of the stuff I had just studied in Global Death Cult. I just published today an older interview I did, I think it was with Charles Moskowitz on Global Death Cult. But it's still kind of popping up. Some of these things are still happening in the more recent events. One of these friends of Nick Fuentes just got arrested, who had this strange name, Spickwaffen, but he got the pictures of him. He's sitting with Nick Fuentes. He's got the classic skull bandana around his face. So the kind of iconography is there. It ties into maybe some of these darker things of the ONA. I don't know how deep this guy got, but, I go into that in my book. ONA, I had him often as well. And I had there's some very interesting things about Ed Sheeran's bad habits and how influential it was. I was looking through YouTube today and just saw like little kids are copying this song and not even knowing how sinister the ideas and the ideology behind that song. And so they, like I said, had been researching it even when I talked to them back on the 12th. So I'm delighted to have them both back. Their names are Brett Carollo and Thomas Millery of PsyOp Cinema. So Thomas and Brett, welcome back to the show. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having us, William. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. So for people who hadn't heard our last show, can you talk a little bit about your backgrounds, how you got started and interested in PsyOp Cinema, your kind of work on the Joker, and then why you looked into Sheeran and Bring Me the Horizon?
Sure. So with PsyOp Cinema, we analyze primarily Hollywood-related psyops, its connections to the occult and broader forms of mass manipulation. And, at least speaking for myself, really got into this just because of a lot of years of studying the paranormal and being interested in things like psychedelia, alt spirituality, and the occult from a more positive perspective, and also being a pop culture junkie, and then eventually just kind of getting to see the dark side of these things. That was kind of my journey, and so led me to this present focus. And so Brett and I, we tend to do just very close readings of pop culture to expose the actual messaging behind these things. And with what we're going to talk about with Ed Sheeran and some related artists like Bring Me the Horizon, it was actually, William, it was listening to one of your interviews on another podcast where you mentioned the Bad Habits music video and its possible connections to O9A symbolism. And I was very familiar with the Order of Nine Angles. And I was not really familiar too much with Sheeran, though I've looked into him a lot, but I did know Bring Me the Horizon's music. And just kind of going down that rabbit hole just led me to just to really being stunned with how close some of these connections are. So that's my entryway into the conversation.
And Brett, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I would just say for me, the inspiration for the show really came from observing this isomorphism or this parallel between MK Ultra mind control experiments and the alleged successor Monarch program, and sort of collective mind control, cultural engineering operations going on out of Hollywood. And I mean, like Thomas, I have a background in sort of like mystic, esoteric exploration, and I've since converted to Orthodox Christianity. But that, and being a huge film buff, just honed my sort of perception to pick up on a lot of these things. And it's your work, along with people like Jay Dyer and Jason Horsley, that were kind of the leads for me. So we're really honored to be on the show. Thanks.
Great. And so you guys have been doing some of these inquiries into the cinema, and it's very interesting process where, at least for me, like, you don't really know what you're watching. Like back in the day when I was watching these films, they really are worth going through again and looking at what the influence is, what the esotericism is, some of these ideologies, the ideas that they're putting across, what they're trying to maybe initiate you into. There's a lot of things going on. And I think a lot of that is going on with Ed Sheeran's Bad Habits and this Bring Me the Horizon and this other band, Cradle of Filth. And and we can go into that, but what kind of have you guys learned about Sheeran, Bring Me the Horizon, and Cradle of Filth?
Well, I've got a ton of information on them to get through, and we probably won't get through all of it in this interview. So I hope people will look for other content that we'll do on this in the future. Maybe Brett and I will do a premium episode on our Patreon or something. But to start with Ed Sheeran, so the rabbit hole goes really deep here, but this is very important because he really is just one of the very highest selling music artists in the world. This English singer-songwriter and his style typically falls in the realm of just pop music or folk pop. I think one of his albums was the world's best-selling album of 2017. Spotify named him the most streamed artist of the 2010s, so really couldn't possibly be a bigger deal. And this particular song, Bad Habits, it was an immense commercial success, a single from, I think, his 5th studio album, which was called Equals. And then the music video. So with that, Sheeran cites his love of Buffy the Vampire Slayer as a partial inspiration for what goes on there. With the music video, so Sheeran starts out in this beauty salon, and he's like a vampire dressed in this pink suit. Then he's like flying around the city at night with other vampiric monstrous figures, causing havoc. And there's really notable imagery, him giving a smiley face balloon to a vampire child, him grabbing this figure that crashes out of a car's windshield and seeing it's a doppelganger of him, which then deflates, or really notably at the end of the video, the sun rises and the rest of the vampires, they either disintegrate or flee from the sunlight, whereas the sunlight just makes Ed turns back into his normal milquetoast pop star self, just kind of strumming the guitar in daylight. So I have a lot of info about about how Sheeran might be specifically connected to some of this really bad stuff vis-a-vis some of these other artists like Cradle of Filth or Bring Me the Horizon. But Brett, I had asked you to watch this music video, and to kind of analyze it. So Brett, what really stood out to you here in Bad Habits before I keep going?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of like William. I'm a little bit behind with pop culture these days, but I do follow this sort of symbology, the sort of complex of symbols around the monarch thing, which is really in the music business is kind of coextensive with the whole Illuminati conspiracy and all the related symbols and tropes. And I mean, that's just in spades here. It's all over the place. Of course, there's butterflies on the cover of the album, and I'm like, what, for associated with every song of the album. The director of the video, if you look into it, I mean, he's an Illuminati hack. Sheeran is seen at the beginning with his eyes blocked out by the beauty salon, whatever that thing they put over your head is. But you'll notice the women beside him, it doesn't block their vision. So clearly they're pointing toward that eye covering trope. It's covering the mouth or covering the eyes, the forms of submission and perception control that are part of this monarch symbology. The one eye thing comes up, the eye patch girl. Of course, the keys hanging off the guy's leather jacket, I thought was, potentially, monarchy. So, I mean, there's some other stuff I have, but like the first thing is just the kind of monarch stuff, which is in Sheeran and Bring Me the Horizon and all their videos. It's pretty obvious.
Wow, I didn't know that. I missed a lot of that stuff. So the monarch is the monarch butterfly. That was one of the earlier projects, right? Artichoke, monarch, something like that. So they've integrated that in there. Wow. Yeah. And what else did you find anything else in that kind of stuff? I mean, I do think it's interesting, like the name of the band, Bring Me the Horizon, and then at the end of the song, the sun comes over the horizon. I think that's what they're referencing in that name. Would you agree with me that they're talking about being out at night and the sun coming up?
Yeah, that's my impression. I don't have an exact reference
for
Oliver Sykes or Bring Me the Horizon talking about the meaning behind their name, but that's certainly the general tone being evoked by their themes and artwork and things like that. Yes.
And so the guy who directed this was what, Dave Meyers, I guess was his name. So you think that guy has done a lot of kind of occult type stuff or a lot of commercials, right? Are you familiar with his name? Either one of you, Brett?
Brett, did you look at that guy?
You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I was just having a little bit of trouble with the button. I was trying to look up Myers. Yeah, so Myers fits the profile of a lot of people who do this sort of monarch stuff. Yeah, he's has done a lot of commercials for major corporations. Has done a lot of music videos for, I guess, what we call IMSAs, or what I think Thomas coined that term, Illuminati mind slave, artists. So he just fits that profile. A lot of the projects, I'm just taking a glance at it, now.
And these two bands, by the way, Bring Me the Horizon and Sheeran, these two groups were together at the British Music Awards singing this song too. You can watch that video too. So there's a lot going on there. I think they have a lot of the same imagery in that performance.
Yeah, they really do. Just like all the balloons rising with the smiley faces and things like that. It's very similar to what's being evoked by the music video. And that's really important too. Just that the fact that Sheeran invites Bring Me the Horizon to perform that song with him, because it's just really not obvious that would happen, just because Sheeran is just such a much bigger name than these guys. I mean, Sheeran is one of the most famous musicians in the world, and these guys are like popular in their, you know, kind of subculture, but not nearly in the same league. And then that they do, like, typically historically have done much heavier music than the pop music Sheeran does. So he's really elevating their profile by inviting them to do this song at the Brit Awards, and then recording a new version of the song with them, a new studio version. They actually re-recorded it, you know, to be released as a single, as a remix. So that collaboration, I think, is really key. And I did find in my notes then why that they are called Bring Me the Horizon. I guess it's a slight change from the end of the movie Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. I guess Jack Sparrow, I don't remember, it's been a long time since I saw the movie, but I guess at the end he says, "Now bring me that horizon." So I guess they took their name from that. So probably plenty of iffy things spiritually going on with those movies. So I guess
right. Well, Johnny, we can get into Johnny Depp. I mean, that's a whole nother
story. Yeah, obviously.
Like Johnny, and apparently his character is supposed to be kind of based on a chaos magician. So if you watch that show and Jack Sparrow, he's like always causing problems, showing up at weird things, you know. It's kind of a clownishy thing, but if you there's definitely a subtext to that character if you watch it in those films. So
yeah, clownish, and that could be playing back into the Joker archetype, which is something Brett and I have been thinking a lot about. With our current series isn't on a particular director as our usual style. Our current series is just kind of revolving around just like the endless chain of psyops and feedback loops between history and culture, revolving around the character of the Joker and the associated archetype. So I think that Jack Sparrow kind of can fit into that this long lineage that we're looking at of anti-hero and kind of trickster characters, kind of mentally ill heroes of different kinds that kind of terminate in different portrayals of the Joker. So there's that. But then I guess before I go deep into Bring Me the Horizon, I really want to explain Cradle of Filth, because they're just such an important piece of this puzzle. So they're this English band that you could broadly classify as extreme metal, mostly associated with gothic and black metal sounds. And their vocalist and lyricist, who goes by Danny Filth, has stated in plenty of interviews, they don't hide it, that in the early days of the band, they were very influenced by the writings and doctrines of the Order of Nine Angles. So in their debut album in '94, The Principle of Evil Made Flesh, you can see these really specific O9A references. The album opener is this instrumental that builds to the whispered phrase Agios Satanas. They have another track there, The Black Goddess Rises. On a track called Of Mist and Midnight Skies, they have lyrics, "Please poison me, send acausal instincts crawling my brain, take me mistress until perversion is fed." So this very targeted reference to the acausal realm of the dark gods that O9A believes in. And of course, unsurprisingly, Cradle of Filth has talked about deep admiration for Aleister Crowley. And in one interview, I think Filth mentioned in being interested in writings associated with the Necronomicon and with Mesopotamian mythology. So I'm guessing he's a fan of Lavenda's Simon Necronomicon too. And where these guys tie into Sheeran is that I think just last year, if I recall correctly, Ed Sheeran gives this interview where he says, "Well, maybe I want to do a death metal album sometimes, because I grew up listening to bands like Slipknot and like Cradle of Filth." So Sheeran grows up listening to these guys who are openly promoting O9A ideology. And Sheeran and Filth also have a connection of both being residents of Suffolk in England. I think in 2020, Filth got the kind of tongue-in-cheek question in an interview of whether he would go to a local Sheeran show. And he was like, "No, I'd probably kill him." But then, like, after Sheeran starts talking about liking Cradle of Filth's music, they kind of, the Cradle of Filth guys change their tune, start talking about, maybe he could do good metal music. He's actually a really good guitarist, they say about Sheeran. They say maybe his metal music could be called Dracula's Castle on a Hill, which is a reference to the popular Sheeran song Castle on a Hill. And ever since then, Cradle of Filth, of all people, and Ed Sheeran have been talking about doing this future collaboration. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, and somebody sent me this one guy, his name, one of Danny, the lead singer, had a Reddit thing, Ask Me Anything. Somebody asked him whether the ONA influenced it, and he responded, "We were influenced in part by their satanic doctrine back in the day. It felt more real than the pseudo occult stuff going around back then." So it's kind of like what ONA says about themselves too, is that they're not, fake pseudo people. But wow, so that's a lot. So Cradle of Filth really has this, and so you say that they're very influential in that kind of very death metal group. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say that in more extreme metal culture, which is very different than the kind of subculture of like metalcore and stuff like that Bring Me the Horizon is associated with. Cradle of Filth is a pretty well known band. So yeah, more extreme metal, more gothic metal type of things. It was funny. They were actually very prominently referenced in the British sitcom, in one episode of the British sitcom, The IT Crowd. And so they got a lot of exposure with that. And I happened to be like watching that show with my wife when I was doing some of the Sheeran research. So kind of a synchronicity there. So yeah, Cradle of Filth isn't going to be known to your average normie, but you have celebrities like Sheeran and others kind of being fan. Like I think Kanye West at one point was spotted wearing a piece of Cradle of Filth merchandise. So they cross over pretty dramatically.
Wow, amazing. So they've got Crowley connections. And then somebody also sent me something that the guitarist Paul Ryan is in a band called Nine Covens, and he's working with this agency group that includes Bring Me the Horizon. So there's kind of a corporate connection there. But really what was stunning to me is something that I came across my research with the ONA, is that this group, Nine Covens, you can look this up on YouTube right now, has a song called White Star Exception. And that is a specific Nexian name. Really, I think it was reputed to be the current or very former head of the ONA, known as Chloe. So they make a connection to her in 2012, which is really something else. So, so the connection with Sheeran, and then that whole thing with, what kind of cultism or things did you see when you looked into Bring Me the Horizon? Did you come across anything? Because I did.
Well, yeah, with Bring Me the Horizon, I think for maybe about 10 years now, they use the unicursal hexagram just very prominently. That kind of shows up in a bunch of their merchandise, bunch of their music videos. So there's that. I think that with so then the other big thing, just to kind of give the punchline right up front, is that Oliver Sykes, the frontman for Bring Me the Horizon, has also said, "Oh, I was really a big fan of Cradle of Filth as a kid as well." I think he says that he was really drawn to their infamous T-shirt that says that says Jesus is a CUNT. So like that was like a piece of Cradle of Filth merchandise that they kind of used for shock value. So both Sheeran and Oliver Sykes are big into this O9A band, and I think that Sykes has a clothing line that he's done a collaboration with Cradle of Filth there. So there's a big connection. They had Danny Filth on one of their albums, guesting on a song. And so like kind of a triangulation of existing or possible collaborations between these three very different artists, Cradle of Filth, Ed Sheeran, and Bring Me the Horizon. Otherwise with Sykes, he's kind of interesting in the sad way, just goes from being this more angsty, edgy atheist type in his public presentation and lyrics to go drifting into more woo-woo, spiritual but not religious, stuff, into how he talks about his worldview over the last few years. I think that he said that he stayed at a Hare Krishna ashram in 2020 when coming out of kind of being in a very dark place psychologically because of the pandemic. So he went there with his wife, who is from Brazil. And he said that was a really important period of spiritual rehab for him. And then just last year, I think he and his wife get dental surgeries to give them the permanent appearance of having vampire fangs. So that's pretty crazy. There's the fact that their song Don't Go off of their 2010 album, which is called There Is a Hell, Believe Me, I've Seen It, There Is a Heaven, Let's Keep It a Secret. He alludes to this disturbing murder case from 2004. I mean, he directly references the details of this murder case, wherein this 17-year-old boy, Terry Lee Hurst, was savagely murdered on a camping trip by three other teenagers who wielded scythes, and they left him with over 50 wounds. And I don't think that motive was ever officially established in this murder. But John Sodden, the ringleader of these 3 teenage murderers, had like a history of making violent threats. In a way, some details about the case are vaguely remind me of Damien Eccles, and so that this murder is really prominently referenced in this song. And then there's a lot of rumors online that that Sodden is Oliver Sykes' cousin. Some articles say this, which I haven't been able to confirm, but still I think it's interesting and darkly suggestive that there's this prominent lyrical reference to this brutal murder of a teenager.
Wow, interesting. Terry Lee Hurst, Hurst, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow. So that was something that happened in the UK.
The murder happened in 2004.
Gotcha.
And then I think 6 years later, Oliver Sykes references some of the details of the death in this song, Don't Go.
And they have other kind of really suspicious, term things that kind of look like they were illuminated by the ONA. Nihilist Blues, Drown, a lot of water themes in the ONA. So I didn't really go into it that deep, but there's definitely something there with that whole band and this guy and their interest in these kind of deaths. Wow.
Yeah, there's absolutely something really unsettling going on there, and I have a lot more to say about Sheeran. I think it gets even darker and more suggestive than we've already gotten to with him.
Okay.
But kind of while we're on Bring Me the Horizon, I guess I had Brett watch a bunch of their music videos, because like that's maybe the most obvious thing about them is that the music videos just wall to wall Monarch mind control themes just their whole career. They've switched up styles a bunch of times. They were like deathcore, then metalcore, now kind of like electronic, and like pop influenced alt rock. But like throughout all of that, their the susness of their music videos and imagery has stayed pretty constant. So Brett, since I know you have some notes on these things, I was wondering if you could maybe get into some of what you have on. Maybe let's start with the video for Alligator Blood. That one I think is really telling.
Yeah, and I was going to say as well that Sheeran, who's dressed like the Joker in that Bad Habits video, his being a vampire, because you gave me this batch of music videos from Bring Me the Horizon and Sheeran to watch, and so when I'm looking at Sheeran as a vampire, I'm immediately reminded of every one of the Bring Me the Horizon videos. I think about a half dozen of them. They're monsters. They're possessed and they turn into horror movie.
Wow, so they're all like that. So that's they might have drawn inspiration for Bad Habits from the Bring Me the Horizon videos. Do you think that's possible?
I think it's possible, in as much as they're all drawing from the same sources. That I think that Sheeran has had suspicious things about him for a while, and then Bad Habits was just maybe the most blatant iteration of that. Especially with when you have even I think the video on YouTube, the official video, it's not like a full music video, but just like an image for their the remix with Bring Me the Horizon. You have Oliver Sykes and Ed Sheeran kind of clasping hands with just like Sheeran looking very like bright and normal and poppy, and Sykes looking like his normal angsty, more metal self, and like surrounded by bats. You almost have this marriage of kind of like dark and light sides of pop culture coming together to bring this like really intense Monarch programming that might also be O9A influenced. So I don't know if they were directly influenced by Bring Me the Horizon, but Bring Me the Horizon is directly influenced by the kind of Monarch and occult stuff that I think Sheeran is more subtly trying to see in the culture.
Now this Alligator Blood, I just saw the same mask from Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah. So and I think what a lot of and possibly even partially the Sheeran video, and a lot of them are about what I'll just call for shorthand the primary Illuminati initiation ritual. Wow. That is just referenced endlessly, right, by the rap musicians and stuff. They're rap singers. It's like you to sort of break it. It's just the Rosemary's Baby thing, right? You have to sell your soul for fame. It's the Crossroads sort of initiation ritual. And so the guy in the mask, that's the mask that Tom Cruise wears in Eyes Wide Shut, which is a giveaway because that mask is this really fancy looking mask, and all the other ones are wearing these, I guess, stark and plainer looking masks. So it's kind of a giveaway. And so he's the initiate. He's the person being initiated. Now the guy in the beak mask, who's really the Hierophant, if you read the tarot cards and you follow how the tarot cards are telling you about the video and stuff. He's the one that has the mask that covers his whole face, and the beak. He's like the Hierophant who initiates him, and it's an alligator. and then you think that he's turning into an alligator blood, turning into a monster, ritual, demonic, possession, selling your soul. There's Wizard of Oz stuff at the end of this. It's just mind control through. Opens with like a temple portico and the checkerboard floor. All of this is about initiation. I don't know if that's a cube of Saturn or what's going on
Isn't
there.
that the same cube they used from Hellraiser, the movie Hellraiser?
That's probably the reference. And one more thing on Alligator Blood.
Parker's a known occultist too. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
Oh no. The director, Stuart Birchall, not a lot of credits, but one of the things he's done is a short called Triskelion, which, just look at the IMDb description. It's about Alice in Wonderland and its relation to mind control and dissociation. I mean, these people are monarch through and through.
Oh, that's incredible. So this has got all the imagery and all that stuff, right? So he's going transformed. This is kind of the guy in the chair, right? He bows down to him. It's all there. Wow. It's crazy. So
yeah,
Alligator Blood.
There's the blinded, the blindfold, right? So like the initiatory in blindfold, like you see at the beginning of the Ed Sheeran video.
Right. So the blindfold is that whole symbol, right? And I think that's very Masonic. Like they blindfold the first guy, but he's kind of being initiated into vampirism, right? So that the vampirism is very much through and through ONA literature and ONA stuff, the whole idea of like blood. But also the bat is a very important symbol. I can't remember what the name they use in the ONA offhand. It's in my book, but they use a specific thing because the bat sees at night, right? It flies at night, sees. So among the occult, like when you're out at night, before the sun comes up, you see at night. What other videos did you see, Brett? Did you just watch this one, Alligator Blood?
Well, I'll mention two more. I mean, I watched about a half dozen, but the other two that are just, well, okay, so Mantra and Parasite Eve. Mantra opens exactly the same way, in a checkerboard floor, chess piece people like running in this hypnotic circle. That's a monarch, trope, spinning and rotating to create dissociation. And yeah, the whole thing is a psychological assault. It's about the lead singer is a cult leader, and his listeners are the members of the cult, and it's making these like almost explicit parallels, right? If you can read the language between micro and macro mind control, between media mind control and cults, and I mean it's all sort of there. The joke at the beginning of the video was probably the most interesting part too, where that Joker figure is jumping out of a screen, has like a violent like this venom mouth that bursts through the screen, while the people watching it are convulsing. They're they're like Clockwork Orange mind control victims, like going into convulsions from the flicker rate and everything. It's a symbol. So the Joker thing here is like a symbol for psychic invasion and assault through media, and right before that you see a rainbow with the word freedom, right? You think you're getting freedom, but it's not. This is what I call red pill programming, right? Where they try to, it's double psychology. They try to make you obey by telling you it's edgy and it's wrong, and I think that's part of what these people are initiated into. Like they find out, well, they want to be rebels or whatever. They buy into the lies of the culture, and then they're shown that the real rebels, the real people challenging God, are these elite level Satanists who run the industry.
Wow. I had no idea there was that much stuff in this thing.
Here, just one more really weird thing out of this is that you see this like ghost version of Coco the Clown, which is from a 1933 Betty Boop Snow White cartoon. And I just mentioned that because that same ghost shows up in this recent fourth PsyOp group, this psychological operations army unit out of Fort Bragg that ran this weird commercial, like supposedly a recruitment video called Ghost in the Machine, which is really creepy. People should check it out. And it's been in that, and they've also, the same figure has been in Ghost Main, and who else? In a Drake video, all very recently. And there's just not a lot of uses of this I can track down. But you see Bring Me the Horizon, Drake, Ghost Main, all kind of Illuminati folks. And then it's used recently, this year, in fact, in this psychological operations recruitment ad. So wow. a lot of really creepy stuff here.
And that was like a famous, that video was like a famous cartoon from Germany or something, right? That ghost video where it's dancing. I can't seem to find it here.
No, it's a Cab Calloway routine. It's American.
It's American, okay. But it's from like 1933, like it goes way back. I wish I could find it. Anyway, but I mean, look at this. This is the occult stuff. Like because I know the occult, like I can tell some of the stuff. They have this whole thing, like the cult group, and then the channel is Cult 11 or whatever, TV 11. Like this is just redolent. And he's being reborn or something, probably. Where's this cult group? I just missed it. Shoot. Yeah, this is dark. I didn't know it was this dark. Wow. Hey, if you can see these guys, and look, that's all kind of like mind control imagery too. You can go see them in Georgia. They're in the United States right now. People should probably be, if they come to town, you should probably find out. Wow. What other video did you see? So you saw Mantra. What's the other one?
Yeah, well, the most, to me, just like openly psychotic, like openly satanic, like psychological assault on humanity is the Parasite Eve video, which is just this really horrifying display of Luciferian transhumanism with this strong kind of like Whitley Strieber, transcendentalism, I'll call it, where, like interdimensional and probably transtemporal aliens are these supposed to be these manifestations of our own spiritually evolved self. So it's like Satanism meets that sort of UFO cult stuff, meets Illuminati, hypnotic blinking lights the whole way through. Notice the red and the blue, this technique that was probably pioneered by Dario Argento. That gets used a lot in kind of psyop stuff. And then you see these, like, you got more like Eyes Wide Shut, like sex orgy sort of stuff in this Rothschild-like palace with checkerboard floors. There's a screaming girl running away, drugged people, and then you have this. Am I looking at the right? Yeah, that's in Parasite. Yeah, I'm sometimes I think I'm confusing some of these videos. There's a lot of overlapping.
Overlap, right? Can you explain who Dario Argento is for people who don't know?
Dario Argento was an Italian, I mean, he's still alive, right? I mean, he's an Italian director who pioneered this very visionary form of cinema, also made giallo films and kind of Italian shock films, like in the style of Bava and people like that. But he's probably the greatest of the Italian visionary horror directors. His daughter is a Gia Argento. I mean, she's caught up in a lot of conspiracy stuff. There's a lot of it around.
Like the last, if not the last or the former, or very close to Anthony Bourdain, right? Like before he disappeared. But yeah, but he was at Sinistra that he did. That's his most famous work, and his work was kind of Suspiria. Thank you. Suspiria, but his work was also based upon the Italian Pulp Fiction type stuff that we would get in kind of like a 5 and 10 dime. Well, back in the day, like a cheap paperback stuff, I think is what he based some of his works on, if I remember correctly. So, but yeah, so he's borrowing that stuff. Yeah. So I mean, what's it? This one. This is kind of the one. This is the one that, like, for me, looks like total ONA stuff. Nihilist Blues, featuring Grimes, right?
Yeah, I was going to say this one is really important because Grimes is just one of the most suspect people like on the planet. Just her song from 2018, "We Appreciate Power," is very, very telling of I think some pretty high level elite ideology. But so she's this experimental pop artist with this very witchy sci-fi aesthetic, and the mother of two of Elon Musk's kids. But if she's around, you're in deep psyop territory. She's like this really apt example of this new breed of kind of female experimental pop artists, who seem to be very blatant IMSAs, as I would call them. And so with this song, Nihilist Blues, she collaborates with Bring Me the Horizon because they've been mutual admirers for a long time. I don't think that they were in touch, but they both were apparently like big fans of the other's work. Where Grimes says a while back now that Bring Me the Horizon is the future of rock music, or that their sound is going to be the kind of rock music of the future, and Bring Me the Horizon say that they're big fans as well. So yeah, Grimes, is like very, very influenced by like Genesis Peorage and a lot of other really suspect stuff. But with that aforementioned track, "We Appreciate Power," was basically openly declares that she's this worshiper of like feminine, malign AI goddess stuff, and basically like Nick Land stuff with like a feminist witchy touch. So she's
Dick the Land, for people who don't know, that's all George Bataille type of ONA influence
Yes.
things too. So that's what I am.
Absolutely. So on this track with Nihilist Blues, you have this transhumanist, communist, feminist, occultist AI worshiper, and like they're like ostensibly the lyrics are just about kind of existential millennial malaise, but you have moments in the song with like Grimes whispering, light as a feather, stiff as a board, sink into the floor, things like that. And within this music video, there's a lot of pseudo subliminal imagery. With all the flashing and stuff, there's moments of, I think, artwork of Eve giving the apple to Adam. There's a car crash. There's a flash of the character Psycho Mantis, an antagonist from the video game franchise Metal Gear. And I was tellingly about, I think, both Bring Me the Horizon and Grimes. Psycho Mantis is, as a character, a psychic capable of telepathy and psychokinesis, part of an elite U.S. Army Special Forces Black Ops group called Foxhound. And Oliver Sykes from Bring Me the Horizon is a big fan of those games and those villains in particular. He wears like a patch for Foxhound in their Shadow Moses music video. So this character who's flashed briefly in this video for Nihilist Blues, he's known for this iconic fourth wall breaking sequence from the Metal Gear games where he proves his psychic abilities by first vibrating the player's controller and then reading off the other games that the player has played from their memory card. So it's this purposeful distortion of this blending of fact and fiction that's like really classic, kind of occult MK Ultra culture playbook stuff. So no surprise that Grimes and Bring Me the Horizon would be into that. So yeah. Oh, and with this song, it makes me think there's kind of an interaction with Musk himself and in Bring Me the Horizon, where Oliver Sykes' clothing line creates a jacket that says "We feed the simulation." And then this is, I think, back in 2018. And then Musk tweets a picture of that jacket and just, says in the tweet, just the name, it just says, "Bring Me the Horizon." And then Sykes replies to Musk saying, "Oh, I hope you like the jacket. You inspired it." So I guess like Sykes is probably interested in Musk's really silly interest in like neo-Gnostic simulation theory stuff. And Grimes is almost certainly the connection point there. I'm sure she got Elon into their music because she would have recorded this collaboration with him by that time.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
There it is. We feed the simulation. Oily Sykes releases the Elon Musk inspired drop dead clothing jacket. This is crazy, man. I had no idea there were that many connections.
Oh yeah, it stunned me when I started researching Sheeran, just how much stuff it led to. And then since I know we don't have a ton of time left, there's a couple other major points of things that really kind of creep me out about Sheeran that I really want to get into. There's other stuff about Bring Me the Horizon as well, but we could maybe talk about that.
I have another 20 minutes, so whatever you can fit in the next 20 minutes is good.
All right, let me see what I can do. So I guess another connection that I would make, since the Joker's come up a couple times, is that you'll see articles correctly noting that the Bad Habits music video has a few shots in it that are kind of reminiscent of very reminiscent of scenes from the 2019 film Joker, which Brett and I are thinking about a lot and talking about a lot on our show right now. And where that's that's really interesting to me, I think of something that Chris Knowles has said very times about how like the dominant archetypes in our culture are the siren and then the Joker or trickster, and I think that's very perceptive. And with the Joker connection with Sheeran, so he's kind of dressed like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. He's kind of acting sometimes like the Heath Ledger Joker, in the video. But then there's another song on that same album, Equals, the same one as that has Bad Habits, called "The Joker and the Queen." About his relationship with his wife. Then there was a version of that song with Taylor Swift, kind of doing the duet part with him. So Sheeran then very much is casting himself in the role of Joker, with the counterpart being the Queen, whose his wife's name is Cherry Seaborn. And I don't have time to get into the whole Elizabeth Fraser Cocteau Twins kind of a Secret Son Chris Knowles rabbit hole, which goes on forever. But I'll just say, for those who know, the name Cherry Seaborn has some pretty deep significance there if you want to dip your toes more into synchromysticism. And when I messaged Knowles about this, some of this stuff, he pointed out that James Holmes of the Dark Knight Rises Aurora shooting kind of looks like Ed Sheeran, and there's kind of a resemblance there. But to bring this back to the Order of Nine Angles, remember that their two most important dark gods are the male Satan and then the female Baphomet, who's kind of like
Right.
this dark earth goddess figure who's like Satan's bride and mother. And so the Joker is kind of an iteration, I would say, of the more Satan role there. And then those things usually have the counterpart in pop culture of this really malign dark goddess stuff. So the fact that Sheeran does, the Joker and the Queen, I think is very suggestive. But what really, really catches my eye with him is the fact that that he has this cousin, Laura Sheeran, who is not very well known at all. This Irish cousin of Ed, and she's also a musician. Does more kind of more ethereal music than Ed does. It's not pop music in the same way. But so she says she used to play music with Ed a lot before he got signed. Though you can find videos on YouTube, a couple of them playing together. But her stuff is really much more dark and atmospheric. But one of her first releases is this EP called To the Depths, really obscure stuff. And then her first full album is called The Lust of Pig and the Fresh Blood. And the accompanying tone, artworks, lyrics are basically what you'd expect out of a name like that. Like the interest in the occult and the dark and spiritual darkness is way, way more foregrounded with her. And she's Sheeran's cousin. And what's I think even more interesting there is that there's the big inspiration for Laura's work and worldview is her mother, Kiva Sheeran, and there's only, I think, one article online that talks about this woman, it's a profile of Laura where she talks about this, explains that her mother had alternative ideas and was interested in alternative medicine, leading to what she says were false rumors in their rural Irish town that Laura's mother was a witch casting spells on people. And so her admiration for her mother and the impact of these childhood events lead Laura Sheeran in 2016 to direct this theatrical piece about Bridget Cleary, known as the last witch burned in Ireland. And so Laura describes how Cleary was brutally murdered by her husband, father, and others in the late 19th century because they believed her to be a witch or a changeling. So Laura creates this theatrical piece called Changeling, which of course really stands out to me given shape-shifting and all that being such intensely important themes for O9A. Right. So Laura Sheeran creates what she says is this dark, immersive piece exploring, I'm quoting, themes of the supernatural, the feminine, and the occult using music, visuals, dance, and spoken word. And so, end of the quote. And Laura then talks a lot about this theme of women being oppressed by false accusations of dark supernatural power. I don't know if there's any video of this piece available, but there is a trailer for Laura Sheeran's Changeling on YouTube where you can hear this voiceover from the actress portraying Bridget Cleary, who's at first despondent over her husband's accusations of her being a witch. But then this couple-minute trailer ends with her going over and over again, am I a witch? Am I a witch? Maybe I am. So same double speak, in the feminine register as you get with like Eccles and the West Memphis 3 case, where it's like, on one hand, it's like, rural people, they're so superstitious and prejudiced. They have all these wild accusations at innocent people who are just a bit different, combined with like in the Eccles case, but actually the occult is good and we should all respect Eccles as a Crowleyan guru. And then this is kind of like the logic of like that Robert Eggers film, The Witch, and presumably this piece of treatment, which I haven't seen, where it's basically like religious accusations of witchcraft are paranoid and irrational, and that's why it's a great thing for women to embrace Satan and become powerful witches.
Right. It's incredible how similar the kind of terminology or the same themes run through these different witch events or occult events, and even in different countries. It's the same kind of terminology. There was a case that was brought to my attention that will blow people's minds, and I think ties into Eccles and a lot of these kind of witch people, but it's the case in Scotland of Luke Mitchell. If people have time, look into that case. It's like all of the stuff around the West Memphis 3 happened in Scotland. It was really one of the more brutal cases, if not the most brutal case in Scottish criminal history, at least according to other people. There's a good documentary about that case, but it was like watching the same arguments. People, you don't understand. And this kid was into the occult. It was incredible. But these connections of this band and stuff like that are really off the charts there. It's really remarkable. I'm looking for Changeling right now. What was it? Was it under a different band? Because I'm looking at this. It says like in Common Culture under this Bridget Cleary. It says Changeling by Irish rock band the Riptide Movement.
I think that's something maybe different, just because it's probably just different riffs on the same story of this last witch killed in Ireland. I think maybe if you look up Laura Sheeran's YouTube channel, I think that there's this trailer on there.
And there it is.
Yep, that's it. Oh, and pretty much any of this woman Laura Sheeran's videos are just really creepy. So if people want to see Ed Sheeran's family, then check out those videos.
Wow.
Like this one's mild by comparison of how suggestive some of these other ones are on there. There's a video called Spellbook. Yeah, really, really not subtle. It's no wonder that no wonder that Sheeran doesn't talk about this woman very much.
I'm not surprised. This is all kind of, you're in the rustic forest doing strange things, looking like the what is it, the horn god or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, and I see someone in the chat had mentioned Extinction Rebellion, so let me just say something briefly. I wasn't going to say about Bring Me the Horizon in this particular case, but on this same album, Post-Human Survival Horror, is that crazy Parasite Eve music video. Like all the songs, like basically Oliver Sykes just is talking about his hatred for Trump and Boris Johnson and his undying support for Greta Thunberg and Extinction Rebellion and BLM and George Floyd and Antifa. So this massive edgelord who's so anti-human and into like all this dark occult stuff, also just pledging his loyalty to like every just woke social justice cause of the day, and doing this anti-human eco programming. So Bring Me the Horizon is on it when it comes to that kind of Depop agenda.
Wow, that's incredible too. Wow.
All right. I guess. What was that?
No, please continue.
So one thing that I have to make sure that I get out about Sheeran, now that I've primed everybody with all this other stuff, so I think this will land a little bit harder now, but is creepy in light of all the other stuff. But for years now, on his large estate in Suffolk, known as Sheeranville, he's got just a huge estate there. He's been for years, Ed Sheeran has been building a private chapel. And he says it will be an interfaith space for prayer and contemplation with symbols that people of all different faiths can interpret personally. And its roof is going to be shaped like a leaf. And it will be built on the east edge of the property with stained glass windows specifically designed to let in the sunrise, because Sheeran says that the sunrise is relevant to both Abrahamic religions and Eastern faiths and to more ecologically oriented modern philosophy. And so for years, he's been building this chapel. And then more recently, Sheeran has been building a crypt underneath the chapel. So I won't openly speculate about the things going on there. People can look this up. There's plenty of news stories about this chapel and crypt and stuff. But the sunrise piece, I think, is really important, because remember, the Bad Habits music video, Sheeran's an evil vampire all through the night. And then the sunrise turns him back into his wholesome, normal, mainstream pop star image. So yeah, William, do you want to tell everyone why the fact that Sheeran wants to have sunlight for the sunrise coming in is so important?
No, why don't you?
Sure. Well, there's this O9A ritual that I forget what the exact name of it is, but it involves basically lying on the ground for the entirety of the night, where you cannot move and you cannot fall asleep. And so you just have to lie there entirely until the sunrise, and then to record in detail everything you felt. And you can read O9A accounts online of people being initiated, who do that. And so there's that. There's the vampire theme. There's the sunrise thing, like with the Bad Habits video that I just mentioned. There's the kind of resonance with Bring Me the Horizon, all of that. But so I think just the fact that Sheeran has built, and also the fact kind of the generic spirituality, that it's not any particular religion, but there's a leaf shape for the roof. So the allusions to nature religion, kind of the druidry and witchcraft background stuff that's being hinted at with like Laura Sheeran and her mother and all of that. You mentioned on our show some of the druidic resonances, with O9A spirituality. So all of that together, I think, is horrifically unsettling.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's amazing. These are super popular people. Ed Sheeran is like one of the top 10 musicians in the world or something.
In the world, absolutely. Absolutely.
And this is what's going on. And that Bring Me the Horizon, it's a septenary way. That is something like you go the path. I think it's the third path. You're supposed to kill, select an offer on the fifth one. But the third one is to go out at night, lie down and not move. And if you don't achieve it, just try and try again. So you're constantly doing that. I think the second one is like an extreme athletic challenge, and then the third is to do that for 12 hours, from sundown to sunup. Yeah, that's amazing. Your research is excellent, man. First rate. So we're at the 50-minute mark. Is there anything you guys would like to add or anything I missed before we wrap it up? And please tell people where they can find PsyOp Cinema.
So I've been talking for a while. Brett, do you have anything to add?
Wow, no, it was a great discussion. Yeah, congratulations on your research. I mean, I don't know, final thought. I take it that, Bring Me the Horizon is obviously more obscure than Sheeran. I don't know how underground it is, but I mean, there's a similar thing that goes on in the movie industry where, I've been sort of like, Thomas even asked me about this one of our premium episodes recently. What are these B movies that are so revelatory often of wider cultural psyops? Like, why there? Like, why is it more there sometimes than in the bigger stuff? And then what are these relationships, between them? But I mean, there's a complex relationship in these industries between their sort of underworlds. And I mean, the underworld in the movies goes all the way down to like the porn industry, right? So if you watch a movie like The Lost Highway by David Lynch, who then, goes on to make Mulholland Drive, is very obsessed with the dynamics of Hollywood and power and mind control. And that's very much a monarch movie. So it's the same. I think there's something similar going on in the music industry too. And what's going on with Sheeran and Bring Me the Horizon strikes me from the outside as, signaling what that relationship is, sort of like initiating those in the public who are interested anymore. But now it's like that stuff I think can be more degenerate in its way. It can be darker because in the past, I mean, the average person would know who Snoop Dogg was, or Dr. Dre, or Marilyn Manson, but like whoever the hip people and like the really degenerate people are today, they're going to reach their audience in droves, right? But the wrong people, the people that they don't want to see their work, are not going to see it. So like the compartmentalization of the culture is, I think, allowing for more of this to get revealed. I think maybe that's part of the explanation for why there's more monarch stuff, why everything in the music industry now is like Illuminati and monarch, and half the world just doesn't care, and most of the other half just can't bring themselves to believe what it really is.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think, like I said earlier, the triangulation of Cradle of Filth, Bring Me the Horizon, and Ed Sheeran is very telling, because these very different styles, different levels of cultural prominence, all coming from the same incredibly dark source. And, very few people, in terms of normies, will hear Cradle of Filth's album specifically just talking about O9A doctrines. But, everybody's going to, in a grocery store or whatever, hear Bad Habits playing. And like this has an effect. This really is an assault on humanity, an assault on people's souls and sanity, and just it's low-grade conditioning just all the time. And I think it's really important that people be aware of how direct these connections can be. And I'll say that there's just so much more material on Bring Me the Horizon and Sheeran that I want to talk about at some point. So Brett and I will either on our main feed or on our Patreon do an episode about that sometime soon. So
or come back here. You're open invite to go part 2.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, maybe we should just do a part 2 here because I think that so much of this connects obviously with your research, William. And let me just say, just today, after I had already long ago collected all this info on Sheeran, I find out today that the high school Ed Sheeran went to and met his wife at is Thomas Mills High School. And so given that my name is Thomas Millery, little synchronicity startled me a little bit. But these things do pop up when you go deep into this kind of research. So
but the fact that he mentions White Star Exception, this guy Cradle of Filth, and ACAUSE is so specific to the ONA. I've read a lot in my life and have not come across the use of that term in other places. Maybe I'm missing certain philosophical references or something like that, but those are all
pretty ONA specific. Yeah. But yeah, so thank you so much, William, for having us on. We hope to have you back on PsyOp Cinema sometime before long too. We've got a lot more that we want to ask you about, and I really do hope your listeners check out our content. So we've got 2 Joker episodes up so far, with plenty more related content coming. Very similar, just incredibly dense collection of of research in the same way as came up with Sheeran, which is of course part of the whole thing. So our Twitter is @CinemaPsyOp. Our Patreon is patreon.com/PsyOpCinema. And there, we have regular bonus content on there, most notably Brett's series on Monarch films, where he does the same kind of analysis as he turned towards these music videos. I think people really like that. So yeah, we're still a relatively new podcast, but I like to think that we bring something unique to the table in the world of conspiracy researchers. So I really hope that people listen to the interview we did of you on our show and just listen to and share our work in general. So thanks so much.
I agree with that. Yeah, no, my pleasure. Thank you. And you guys done like the groundwork. You're looking into the things and doing detail-oriented research. So it's always worthwhile. I will put links to your Twitter and your Patreon in the show notes and links to PsyOp Cinema. Where's the best place do you think to listen to your podcast?
Well, people can listen to it on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or just on Spreaker. It's available on all three, so people have options to listen to them.
Awesome. And again, it's Thomas Millery and Brett. Sorry, do you want to say something, Brett, before I wrap up?
Oh, I just wanted to say thanks, William. And it just occurred to me a movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but a great movie. If you wanted to come back on the show yourself, to discuss the Under the Silver Lake.
People keep telling me to watch that. Under the Silver Lake. That takes place in LA, right? But people say it's just full of like mind control stuff, right? Is that right?
Yeah, totally. I think it's like one of the ultimate, conspiracy movies of the last 10 years or so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I'll have to watch that. I'd definitely be interested. But again, the two proprietors of PsyOp Cinema are Thomas Millery and Brett Carollo, CarolloMillary. And I will put links to all their contact information in the show notes. So thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, William. Take care.
Right, take care.
Thanks, William. Bye-bye.
You too. Stay there.